Hello, cannabis cultivators worldwide. Jordan River here with more GrowCast, broadcasting straight from the Rhino's den. Today we have Rhizo Rich on the line, the man himself. You know him from GrowCast Seed Co. He's a wonderful organic gardener. He's been on the show a whole bunch. He's a good friend of mine, and we're doing the home breeding workshop that is March 4th in Rockford, Illinois. GrowCastPodcast.com/classes if you want to come see me and Rich. This is an awesome class where we are going to arm you with the knowledge that you need to start breeding your own strains and selecting to create the perfect cultivar for yourself. Plus, every attendee gets a breeding kit to take home free. We've got everything you need to get started, and we're very excited to see you March 4th in Rockford, Illinois at Next Level Garden Supply. Shout out to Next Level. So check that out at growcastpodcast.com/classes along with all our offerings. And today we will talk to the Rhino about his crosses, about mistakes to avoid in your grow, and so much more. Before we get into it though, shout out to Photon Tech Lighting, everybody. High quality, efficient, powerful magnetic LED style grow lights. My favorite grow lights on the market. GrowCastPodcast.com/photon brings you right there. Code GrowCast saves you 10% on your Photon Tech lighting. You can grab yourself an X465 watt, perfect for a 4x4. You can grab their 600 watt for a 5x5. Their 1000 watt CO2, and now you can pre-order their 1000 watt Pro LED. This is the biggest, baddest light that Photon Tech has to offer. You're not even going to want to run this thing unless you supplement your CO2 levels or dial it down. It's that powerful. Extremely high PPF output, 2,925 U-moles per second, and an incredible efficiency of 2.9 U-moles per joule. You can't beat the Photon Tech lights. They're water resistant, they're durable, they're magnetic bars, so they're easy to take apart and move. If one breaks, you don't have to send back the whole light. You just pop off that bar and you go ahead and get it replaced, but it's not going to break because the components are incredible and their quality. And on the rare chance that it does, they've got an incredible warranty. Photon Tech is what I grow with. My 600 watt is ripping right now. That thing is absolutely killer. It puts out 1,620 U-moles per second, and my plants absolutely love it, folks. They're looking beautiful. GrowCastPodcast.com/photon. Use code GrowCast and grab yourself the sexiest light in red that you can ever find. All right, let's get into it with Rhizo Rich. Thank you for listening, and enjoy the show. Hello, podcast listeners. You are now listening to GrowCast. I'm your host, Jordan River, and I want to thank you for tuning in again today for yet another episode. Before we get started, I urge you to share this show. Take this episode, hit that little share link, share the URL, send it to a grower friend. It's really a great way to help out. I do really mean it when I say you're helping me out, you're helping out the show when you share these episodes with a fellow grower. Today's episode is absolutely awesome. As always, before we get into it, you can see everything we're doing at growcastpodcast.com/action. That's where you'll find the membership and the seeds and the classes. We've got a breeder class coming up March 4th in Rockford. Very, very excited for everything going on. So check it out, everybody. growcastpodcast.com/action. It's where all the action is. Speaking of breeder classes and GrowCast Seed Co., we have none other than the man himself on the line. The man, the myth, the Rhino. Rhizo Rich is here. What's up, Rich? How are you doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. I'm doing good. I'm back in town.
Nice.
I'm in my garden. I got this next run going. And yeah, man, it's good. I'm in veg with most of my plants. I got one plant in flower, and I'm ready to talk some growing. Today's episode is kind of classic. It's called The Top 5 Big Mistakes You Want to Avoid in Your Garden. And I know I've been making them, so I'm here to tell the listeners what's up. But before we get into all of that, how are you, Rich? How's it going in your garden? And what are you doing right now when it comes to your grow?
Oh, man, there's always stuff going on in my garden. Right now, I'm extra busy, though. I'm harvesting seeded plants. I got a little over 50 new seedlings that I popped.
Woo.
Bunch of new stuff I'm looking through and hunting through. A bunch of our stuff, Seed Co stuff, and then some stuff from other breeders, too, of course. But yeah, right now, mainly harvesting plants and doing a lot of up-potting and transplanting seeds and stuff like that. So
fun times, man. So you're harvesting these seeded plants, the Oreoz feminization drop about to go down. I mean, by the time people hear this, it might be live. GrowCastPodcast.com/Seed Co. As you hear this on Monday, they might be up there. Keep a close eye, though. The members, of course, getting first dibs and knowing about this. The Oreoz Fem line. Absolutely excited for this, man.
Oh, me too.
What can we expect off of these Oreos crosses and this very special Oreos cut that Farmer John gifted us? It's not like a lot of the other Oreos I've tried.
Yeah, Farmer John has the max yields, the original max yields cut. I
Oh, well,
think
that's
there's
why.
another one. I think it's the 1.0 or something like that. There's two different versions, I believe, but I really love the one he has, the original one. And to me, it has a bunch of terps. I know people say that Oreos doesn't. I think you're always going to find something that has more terps than the last plant, regardless.
Right.
And I know since it's a hype one, people tend to hate on certain things. But for me, and I know you've had it too before, that Oreos it's got massive bag appeal, the frost. To me, it has plenty of terps. It's got a killer high behind it.
That's what I like as the high. It fucks me up good. I've got a high tolerance, large tolerance when it comes to flour, especially. Yeah, that Oreos gets me stoned.
Yeah, and it leaves a good smell in the house after you smoke it. All around for me, I just love it. And even if it just had the frost and the high behind it, but not a lot of flavor, I'd probably still work with it and breed with it, because to me that would be a great blank kind of canvas backdrop to cross into the mother strains that you're working with.
Good call. Good call.
So either way, I see it as a win-win.
Absolutely, dude. And it's interesting because you're right. Some other Oreos I've had have been kind of muted, but Farmer John's Oreos is loud. It's loud as fuck. I guess it's the max yields cut. That does make sense. But shout out. Yeah, appreciate Farmer John. By the way, Farmer John and Rhizo Rich going to be at the Community Cup, Oklahoma. Yeah, that's right. May 7th. So stay tuned for that, everybody. Got some big stuff coming up, Rhizo Rich. You ready for that? You ready for the Community Cup?
Always, man.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's going to be fun, man. So stay tuned for more info, guys, but mark your calendar. Sunday, May 7th is the Community Cup, Oklahoma City Farmers Market. Shout out Sherweed Forest for helping me do this event. They are fucking angels over there. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, you guys. But, we get into genetics in today's episode. It's a big part of growing. We talk about it all the time. Genetics kind of determining the ceiling of your grow. And then from that point, what we mean by the ceiling is, what your plants are capable of. Like, is it going to be able to push out 20+% THC, if that's something that's important to you? Is it capable of producing anthocyanins or not, and turning purple or not? That's what the genetics determine. And then it's up to you not to fuck it up, right? You got to keep it healthy. You got to keep the plant optimal, and then just kind of don't fuck it up till the end of the run. And that's how you get really good flour, like the stuff Rhizo Rich produces. Is that a fair statement, Rich? It's about getting good genetics and then keeping it optimal and just really not screwing things up for it.
I agree. And I mean, just a shorter way of saying it, but you nailed it, is just you're trying to get that plant to reach its full genetic potential.
Totally.
By the end of the run, you want it to max out on the numbers so far as, as much terpenes as possible as the plant can possibly make, as much cannabinoids, all the good stuff that you're after. So you really want it just to reach that full genetic potential as your main goal. So that's what you're after the entire run. Yep. At least I am.
And I think a lot of people shoot themselves in the foot. I think a lot of what goofs up people's runs can be avoided. So that's what this is all about. We're going to go over 5 big mistakes. And these are going to be things that you're going to be able to watch out for in your grow. Maybe you commit them to one degree or another. And if you listen to this episode and employ these strategies, I know you're going to have a happier, healthier grow. So let's jump right into it, Rich. Sound good?
Absolutely, man.
So this is one we've talked about a little bit before, which is why I put it up front, but I did want to cover it because I'm kind of in this world right now. The first big mistake to avoid is when you see that your plants are stressing or less than optimal, jumping to adding more nutrients to the medium. I think at the first sign of trouble, a lot of people say, oh, it looks like my plant's not praying. It looks like the new growth is a little yellow. What do I need to add into this medium to fix this? That's not my first thought. You tell me, Rich, what are you thinking of when you see a plant stressing? What are you checking out before you go and run for the Epsom salts or the calcium?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Okay, so I have a pretty good example, actually. Like right now, it's colder out. As I've talked about before, I'm in an outbuilding with most of my grows. There is one smaller tent that I have some veg plants in. And I did notice a few were getting kind of lighter in color and just seemed to be struggling. And kind of like what you're saying, and it'd be very tempting to just say, oh, let's throw some, more nutrients at it or some nitrogen or something. But I really just sat there and looked at everything for a minute and the environment, everything that was going on, and kind of just thought, maybe it's just too cold in this tent. And got some heat, a little bit more heat in there, and raised the temperature to where I thought it would be more acceptable. And since then, the plant has corrected itself.
Boom.
But it is important to check all the parameters first before you immediately go to, throwing something on it, because it is the easiest and most tempting thing to do, like you're saying.
You're right, though, man. Something like cold affecting the way the plant feeds. You can start, especially if you're in a soil and you need to keep that balance right in your soil, you can start really fucking things up by throwing in minerals and throwing off balances, when in reality, your plant just needs some more warmth. The way that transpiration works, where the plant is taking up moisture, the solution full of minerals from the medium, and bringing it up through the xylem and down through the phloem and the pump that your plant acts as, that's all hindered by cold. The whole process slows down by cold. And on the other side of the coin, it speeds up by heat, right? You ever run that hot room and you're like, holy shit, they're so hungry, right?
Oh, yeah. Growing like crazy.
Exactly. So things like photon saturation, heat, CO2, these are the things that determine how much your plant is feeding and what the threshold is as well. So that's a really good point, is checking the environment first thing. Too cold, too hot, too dry, too wet. These are all things that you should consider before hammering again with the Epsom salt.
Oh, yeah.
Another big one, Rich, is watering, right? This is the specific example that I wanted to point out. We have our plant problems channel in our member Discord where we're solving members' problems every single day. And someone will post a plant just showing the top of the plant, doesn't show that the pot is sitting in or what type of pot it's sitting in or anything. It'll just show the plant itself. And I'll see that the new growth is a little bit droopy and it's yellowing from the new growth from the center out. Looks like a sulfur deficiency. Might even be a sulfur deficiency. But this is something that I've noticed in overwatered plants. I don't know if it's just that the stress resembles that same expression, or if too much water and too little oxygen, to be more specific, does hinder sulfur uptake. I'll have to speak to Nick or Mary Beth about this. Yeah, right. But have you ever seen that where it's like, boy, this plant looks like it needs Epsom salts. And then you scroll to the next picture and you see that it's sitting in a super saturated medium and all the other leaves are kind of hanging down low. It's like, oh, this plant's just overwatered. That's the only thing wrong.
Right. No, I've definitely seen that before. Probably been guilty of it before.
For sure, man. For sure. So I think a lot of these other stressors can resemble a nutrient deficiency. So before you go and hammer it with the magnesium sulfate, the Epsom salts, for instance, check out all of these other stressors. You know, the other one that can surprise me is pests. You ever notice a plant has pests before you see the pest damage, Rich? Because it looks sad.
Yes, exactly. That's a good way to put it. They look sad. They just don't look like they're doing normal.
Yeah, and you're like, what's wrong with this
performing
thing?
Right.
Next thing you know, you see that they have thrips, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And everything's getting sucked out of them, all the life force.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Have you been dealing with any pests recently in your garden, or have you been pest free?
I have been very lucky and have been pest free, but where I'm at, it's pretty cold. So I'm very lucky in that aspect that the pests don't seem to really come around too much unless it's just, summertime or anything. And then sometimes spider mites might rear their head. I'd say the main thing that I probably deal with is fungus gnats, and even those aren't bad, especially this time of the year. A little SLF or something usually helps with that, or some BTI.
100%. So that's what's important is, if your plant is just hurting because you haven't scoped and there's pests, but you're like, oh, I'll perk this thing up with some minerals, you're definitely just shooting yourself in the foot at that point. A little bit of a left turn, but we are talking about big mistakes to avoid in your grow. Man, keeping up on your IPM is so important. I think a big mistake to avoid is slacking on that. What's your IPM protocol like right now, other than your frozen tundra barrier? What are you doing in your garden for IPM?
The frozen tundra barrier. So I still run the IPM program, if that's what you want to call it, that I talked about in the past, where I'll spray and alternate between a few different products in veg And then once I'm in flower, I just kind of throw a Hail Mary and I don't do shit.
You just pray and you still haven't been bit? That's amazing.
Yeah. And I'll use nematodes and stuff, I do water those in, but so far as like spraying anything, I don't do anything once I'm in flower. And then, like I said, in veg, I'll alternate between a couple products, whether that's something like a Mercenary and an All-Per Plus, or the Mammoth Cantrol or Canatrol. I don't know what they're calling it these days.
Right. Yeah, the oil spray, the oil-based spray. That stuff seems to work pretty good. You're just not supposed to spray it too much because of the stomata being clogged by the oil, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, I don't spray that too much. That is correct. It can definitely, you can tell it just it leaves like a shine on the plants. And I don't want to say it's a bad shine, but it's like a overly done shine,
Yeah, totally.
Like sometimes you spray stuff and it has a nice shine to it. It's almost like an overly done.
It's like a waxed car.
Yeah, like a waxy shiny shine.
Ooh, yeah.
I'll do like a sulfur dip on my clones and stuff too. Other than that, though, I'm really not doing a whole lot.
Well, I don't know though, man. You're alternating 2 different spray products. You're probably spraying what, twice a week, maybe once a week minimum, preventatively.
Yeah, usually about once a week.
Well, that's I'd say you're about.
Veg.
I'd say you're about on it. If you're doing what Rhizo Rich is doing, I think you're about on it. Maybe twice a week would be good. Just don't be like me.
Oh yeah.
And leave town and then forget when you come back and then leave town again. And now it's been like weeks and you haven't sprayed. You know what I mean? That's what you want to avoid.
Yeah. Or not getting anything for years and thinking that it's cool to just, I'll be good.
Yeah, totally.
Stop doing everything, which I've done before. And then you will eventually get something and be forced to go back to doing what you need to do. So just keep up with your IPM.
You just made a really good point. I've been there. What is it about that attitude where after a while of not having pests, you start to slack on your IPM and you just think, I'll be good.
It's human nature,
it's
man.
Totally
I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what anybody says, I mean, I don't know. We can be real, like we've all been there. We've all done that shit.
That's bizarre.
I think so.
Because it's like, you're right. It's so human brained, which is like, well, the pests haven't been coming. It's like, yeah, because you've been spraying.
Yeah. And you're indoors, so you're kind of like, well, maybe they're just not coming because I'm inside and they don't, if you're indoors, and you just get overconfident, I think is what happens.
You run out of the bottle, right?
Yep. You run out. You're like, fuck it. I'm not going to buy another one.
Holy shit. That's so true. So there you go. A little double whammy to start. Of course, stay on your IPM, but that ties into the first point here, which is when you see a problem with your plants or your grow, scope out everything else before you go and add anything to the medium or even spray anything. Check your environment, scope for pests, make sure you're not overwatering. Grab a moisture meter, for God's sake. I thought I was a good waterer, having grown for years and years. Grabbed a Blue Mat moisture meter, the $80 one. I mean, that $80 is
nicer ones. Yeah,
it's going to open your eyes to exactly how you're watering, and I guarantee you're going to change your strategy just a little bit. So I do think that's worth a buy. So yeah, that's our first tip: is watch out and don't just go and fire in minerals every time your plant is sad. Have a little bit more of a holistic approach. This goes hand in hand with that. For the next big mistake to avoid, I want to talk about stressing out your plant. Rich, there's a lot of things we do to our plants that are considered stressors. Topping your plant, super cropping your plant, moving your plant from one environment to another, switching feeds. If you have to switch the way you're feeding your plant, can even kind of give it a little stunt.
Oh, yeah.
These are all things that, we'll do sometimes as growers, but they can slow your plant down. My big tip, something that I just experienced, is don't stack these stressors, right? So, Rich, I just got my plants back from somebody who was holding them for me. So I get my plants back from a different environment. I have to drive them in my car, which I'm sure they hated, in the middle of the night. Their light schedules were all fucked up. I put them in the new tent. I put them on my feed, so now they're getting fed something different. And then I made the mistake of topping them. And then shortly after they were big anyways, so I flipped them. So all of these things are stressors, right? Taking it out of the environment, changing the feed, driving it, putting it on the new program, topping it, flip. I put it all together, and man, this plant was pissed. It wasn't just like I topped it. It was really
Right.
mad. It was droopy. It was angry. I had stacked the stressors, right? And it had really pissed off the plant. Have you ever observed that, or do you have any
Oh,
advice when it
absolutely.
comes to that?
No, I think your tip on that is fantastic. Try not to stack too many stressors, especially when you're doing training and stuff, you know? And then, like you said, immediately flipping to doing that and stacking too many stressors is probably a really bad idea. I always have the thought of going into flower as strong as possible.
Totally.
I have no problem flipping to flower and transplanting close to it as long as you can transplant and not get, you know, it's not a plant that gets stressed out from it. You can do it without causing too much stress. But even then, I'll wait usually, 2 or 3 days and let it come out of its little pissed off mood if it is in it before I flip. I almost, never do it the exact same day.
Good call. The transplant, too. The transplant shock, of course.
Yeah, just try to go into flower as strong as possible. So I don't know. That would be my biggest tip if you are going to be doing a bunch of stressors, which most growers are, is don't stack a bunch of them. And if you do, definitely don't do it close to flipping like you're talking about.
Really good point, and consider the up pot as part of that transition. When your plants are just pissed off, like when your feed regimen is fine, your environment is fine, but you just topped them really hard and defoliated and they're a little sad. Do you use any specific products to perk them up again, or do you just usually wait for them to reacclimate?
Yeah, so I usually wait because sometimes it is tempting to be like, oh, I want to give them something like we were talking about before just to make them happier again. If I happen to be watering then, I will give some silica
Nice.
just because that seems to strengthen them and make them perk up as it is. So I like to, give a little bit of that if I'm happen to be watering, when I'm doing that. But other than that, I don't really do a whole lot. It's mainly just waiting. I think that's the important thing is not to get too worked up about them being in a bad mood about you doing your training and just give them a couple days or a
Yep.
day to recuperate and be patient, don't get too upset about it.
100%. And I think you just made a really good point. I let my plants reacclimate. At first, I was kind of giving them too much foliar love. I think that mineral application is not something you really need to even be considered about, except for what you said. Silica seems to really help with that type of stress. And silica is often underfed anyways. So I would totally agree with that. A couple of products that I would consider are more of the microbial based products and the vitamin based products. So like, it seems like when my plants are pissed, spraying them with like a compost tea will usually make them a little bit happier. I think that's like a good option. Or the product that I used to apply more, I should get myself another bag of it, is that Regenterra product. You remember that stuff?
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me about it.
Dude, that stuff was good because it didn't have high mineral content, but it had all the other shit. It had a bunch of B vitamins and like aloe and hormones. That was a good product. We're not affiliated or anything, but I remember that was a good product for when your plant was just kind of pissed off.
Something to give it a little boost.
Yeah, totally. So that's another one that I used to keep around. And if a plant is mad, hit it with some Regenterra. Are they still in business? I'm going to look those guys up. The Regenterra was a good mix. But yeah, I think people often get a little too aggressive, like I did, and stack a lot of these events, and then your plant's mad, and you're like, what do I do? I think microbes can help, but just time, and let them acclimate in a proper environment.
Yeah,
I think that's the key.
Absolutely. Just like with people, you might need a little time after some stress to come out of it.
Yeah, it's true. It's exactly right. So big tip number 2, don't stack your stressors. We're all going to have stressful events in our garden. Don't put them on top of each other. Get some space in between there, and maybe give them a little bit of a microbial treat to keep them happy throughout the event. Now, the next big mistake I want to move on to, I don't know how much you've dealt with this particular problem or pest or pathogen, Rich, but again, in that plant problems channel, I see a lot of mistaking fungal pathogens for deficiencies.
Very interesting.
So there's a wide variety of pathogenic fungi, oomycetes, all these new categories. Mary Beth has enlightened us on all the taxonomy, but basically what you're seeing is a harmful fungal life infiltrate your plant. There's common ones like Septoria, which have, this dark mottled spotting with a yellow halo around the dots. That's like a easier, weaker fungal pathogen that sometimes gets in people's gardens. But what I see, there's thousands of other ones. What I
I
see
remember you
is,
had that one.
yeah, right. The one that I had, Mary Beth thought was some species of water mold. And those ones that I see look very specific on a plant. So I'm going to do my best to describe this to the listener. This is how Mary Beth taught me to identify a fungal pathogen and how to differentiate it from a deficiency. So when you're looking at a fan leaf and you see that there's some fucked up burning or some spotting, the first thing you want to do is see if it's like I believe it's called necrosis. See if it's like a brown to black dying spot, as opposed to like a burning or yellowing, which occurs on the edges for a potassium deficiency, for instance. If you have the like mottled dying spots, the next thing you're going to do is take that fan leaf and look at where the spotting is placed. If the spotting skips the veins in the leaves, sometimes you'll see it literally skips every single vein and there's a spot, but it doesn't overlap with any of the veins. That's a deficiency, right? Whereas if these brown and dying spots are growing out of the veins and appearing overlapping on top of the veins, that indicates a fungal pathogen. And when I was first taught that, man,
Wow.
I know, right? It totally changed the way that I looked at this. And fungal pathogens are very, very common, not just in soil media. I don't know what the deal is. I guess these pathogens are all around us every time. It's kind of scary, but we see it a lot.
Makes sense, especially when you overwater, you can get that terrible smell. I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what we're talking about, right? Because a lot of these pathogens that we don't want occur in anaerobic conditions. Anaerobic meaning no oxygen, right? So you're overwatering,
Yes.
like Rich says. Really good point. Maybe you're adding in a fuck ton of bacteria. You're adding in bacterial products with nothing to consume that bacteria. So now you've got low oxygen conditions and a whole dead mass of dead bacteria just sitting in your soil. That could cause problems. And it's something that you're gonna need to address. Rich, have you not really, I've seen you remedy things in your garden from time to time. Have you ever gotten a bad soil pathogen? I don't think I've seen that out of your garden.
If I haven't really been aware of it. I haven't really noticed anything like we were talking about when you caught something. It was very prevalent and it was destroying your garden.
It was aggressive, dude.
Yeah, it was aggressive. I haven't seen anything like that. But my God, man, it's very interesting what you say about identifying, and it makes me want to start looking at things differently as well.
Yeah, dude, it's definitely
Just looking at the leaves. I want to see that skipping that you're talking about. That's crazy.
Yep, when it's occurring on the veins, that's the fungus coming up through the water and attacking those veins. It's a dead giveaway. And listeners, I know you're going to look at people's posts differently now when they post their leaf, and you'll see people in the comments saying all sorts of stuff. But Rich, it makes sense because if you have a healthy living soil that's full of a bunch of good microbes, it's very hard for those harmful fungal pathogens to establish, right?
Thrive,
yeah. There's no room for them there. There's too many of the good ones. So
now I could see overwatering though, making them breed.
Yes.
Like we were saying, man, I could see that being a huge problem.
1,000%.
Especially in living soil.
And there's so many different types, but it's some sort of fungal pathogen when it's attacking those veins. Now, the one that I had, it definitely had, like corners of the leaf would just have a big black circle that would go over multiple veins. And it's like, oh yeah, that's a fungal pathogen. But the worst symptoms were the tips of the leaves. The tips of the leaves were turning into withered black, just necrotic tissue. It was like, it would turn dark black, and it would get so bad that if you pinched the tip of the dead leaf, it would powder off into into this black powder, probably some sort of sporulation, I bet. Probably spreading more.
Totally.
So they're nasty, you guys. Fungal pathogens are no joke. And it goes back to our first point. Someone will see that leaf and someone on IG tells them this is a deficiency, and they start adding minerals. And it's like, that is not what's going on here. What you need to do is apply more good biology, aggressive good biology, like trichoderma has helped people with
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, reach for the trichoderma. And then the other product you want to take a look at is a product called Mycostop, and that's a Streptomyces bacteria. Mycostop, Streptomyces bacteria. And that bacterium specifically antagonizes things like these oomycetes, these fungal pathogens that we don't want. So those are the ways that I've had to battle. But Rich, after moving from Oklahoma, I don't get that anymore. So I'm knocking on wood.
Damn.
That's me knocking on wood there.
Better water source.
Whew. Yeah, I guess so. I guess it can come in on the water. I don't know if it was in the pipes. I don't know if it was in the wall. I don't fucking know. But watch out for those fungal pathogens, everybody. You gotta watch out. All right, I'm gonna hit this pen here. Take a hit of the coffee.
Gotta have it.
We will be right back, but before that, the Foop, everybody, thefoop.com, code GrowCast always for your organic fish waste-based nutrients. And you know, spring is right around the corner, and it's time to start thinking about propagation. That's right, cloning, popping seeds. This is what you're thinking about, and what you need is to add some microbiology, baby. Foop is my go-to organic source for propagation. You can even go to thefoop.com/cloning, and there you'll see all their offerings, like their clone gel, their mist, their propagation packs. It's all organic, it's loaded with biology, and that's what you want when you're cloning or popping seeds. Jumpstart that microbiology. Here's a little hack. Grab yourself some of that Foop mist ready to use and spray it on your wet paper towels when you're doing the paper towel method and germinating. This is going to coat your plant in beneficial bacteria and some beneficial fungi, and that is going to stimulate their immune system and get them bursting out of that seed hole vigorously and healthily. So check it out at thefoop.com/cloning. Use the organic products that they have to maximize your plant's potential, and always use code GrowCast. So go ahead and try it today. Grab their mist, grab their gel. I use this stuff. I love it. And I know your plants are going to love it too. Thefoop.com. Be healthy. Go organic. Use Foop. All right, everybody, let's get back to it. Rich, we have 3 big mistakes to avoid so far. Don't jump to adding more nutrients. Don't stack your stressors. Don't confuse your pathogens and your deficiencies. Now we're moving on to number 4. I know that you have got opinions on this one, man. This one's a little hard for me, but big mistake number 4. I hate to say it, you guys. Moving and playing with your plants. How much do you do this, Rich? Are you somebody who gets in there and shakes colas and squeezes and rotates plants, or do you leave them alone?
No, I leave mine alone. Once they're in there, they're pretty much set. I mean, I let the fan, blow them around a little bit and shit, but I'm not in there playing with them and molesting them all the time.
Truly, in the truest sense of the word, you are disturbing them by physical agitation. So, I think this is a big point, Rich, which is we support all gardening styles here. And if you're like me and you want to look at your plants and open your tent and, touch your plants and stuff like that, that's all well and good. But the plant really doesn't like it, right? The plants would prefer that tent closed until you needed to water, right?
Yeah, you're already fucking with their environment when you open and close it, that little microclimate.
I don't think people see it that way. I think that, again, if you want to be in your garden, I do not blame you, but just understand that, like me, you'd probably get a better yield if you just left that tent closed. I open up my tent when I work, and then I leave it open so I can see it from my desk. I leave it open during shows. Plants don't want that. Plants don't move. They don't have any sort of mobility. They like to be stationary. When a plant is under a grow light especially, it's going to position itself in an optimal position because the light source isn't moving. It's not like the sun where it needs to change direction and change angles. So it's going to put itself in the perfect position. If you rotate that pot, it's going to have to take energy away to get into a better position. I know it sounds kind of nitpicky, but it's true, right?
It's true, though.
Yeah.
It's very true. You can watch it, especially with seedlings. If you take them, they're very noticeable with seedlings, and position it to the left or right of the light, it will definitely point itself towards that way. And then if you take the cup and move it to the other side, just watch it. It'll have to use the energy, like you said, to move itself around and aim itself toward the light again. So you're absolutely taking some energy away. So why not do it?
Right.
They're not moving around in their natural environment. If they were growing by themselves, they don't have legs. They're not turning themselves around and, doing shit like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And as gardeners, we want to take pictures and touch things and move things. And what do you think about touching your buds?
So, like you said, everybody can garden their own way. That's totally fine. I mean, I'm not saying don't do it. It's completely fine too if you want. Every now and then I definitely touch the buds, or mainly what I'll do is take like a sugar leaf on a good part of the bud, and I'll rub the sugar leaf trichomes to smell it. I usually don't actually rub the bud itself.
Yes.
So I don't know if that really qualifies, but yeah, I try to avoid touching or playing with the flowers, especially once they're set and really doing their thing. I don't want to disturb all the little hairs or pistils or, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those trichomes get set up and you don't really want to squish them down.
Yeah, you don't want to disturb the trichomes either, You're touching them, they're bursting, and I prefer to leave them, to each their own. If you want to touch them and play with them, fine. It's not going to kill the plant unless you're really hurting them or something. But overall, I prefer not to touch them or mess with them. I want them to be as optimal as possible when I harvest.
I think that that's exactly right. And there's two big schools of thought, which is like, yeah, they're going to produce more. And I would like to rough up my plants. And like you said, that's well and good. My suggestion would be what I've been doing lately is I'll choose like a mid-lower bud that's close to the front of the tent. And that's my sniffing bud. That's the bud that I'm going to wipe the fan leaf, like you said.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I usually try to stick with one bud.
Totally.
For each plant, if I'm going to be touching it or rubbing the trichomes on a sugar leaf, it's almost always the same one. It's not like I'm moving around from bud to bud. That's a very good point.
Choose one that's your sample bud, your sniffing bud. And maybe that's the one you can even harvest. Sacrifice.
That's the one that might be coming down early. Exactly.
Yeah, pop it off early and dry it and smoke it. That's your sacrifice bud. There's another big tip.
Or maybe the fan hits it hard, harder than the other flowers. So It might have a little wind burn or something on it,
Totally, you're right. That's the sacrificial bud. That's hilarious, yes. Dude. I like that.
Protects everybody else.
I like that a lot, yeah. Does it ensure a good harvest?
Oh, I don't know.
The sacrificial bud. It helps. All right.
It helps the anxiety, though. That's for sure.
It pleases the gods when you sacrifice the bud. That's really funny, dude. So yeah, I think that as long as you're aware that mangling your plants and just even moving your plants and disturbing your plants is probably a little bit of a net loss for the growth, just be aware of that. And if you want to completely maximize your plant's health and expression, you should probably leave them alone. And if you need to sniff, get one sacrificial bud and choose it.
Yes.
Instead of, squeezing the tops like I see a lot of people do, which again, I mean, I don't blame you. It's delicious. And
yeah, I definitely know people that will come in and like actually squeeze a bud. And I'm like, no. Let's not do that.
Right. I wouldn't do it. Just know what you're doing. That's the important thing. And know that plants like to be left alone. They don't like to be fucked with unless you're going to open that tent, give them some minerals and microbes and be on your way. So there you go, everybody. That's tip number 4. Big mistake to avoid is moving your plants, disturbing your plants too much. Leave them alone. Get a wise cam, or some sort of camera that you can monitor.
That energy can be put towards better use for sure.
Mm-hmm. Although I am guilty of this. So, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is good stuff. So those are 4 big tips. Now we're going to move on to the last one. I think this one is a little more abstract, but I think people are going to identify with this. So one thing that I've noticed, Rich, and I know you've noticed this too, is that when people are growing, sometimes they can get a little bit stuck on a specific strain. And let me be clear. Sometimes what I mean by stuck on this strain is it's all they want to grow, and it's the basis of their garden, and it's at the forefront. They're never going to kick it out. This is their plant. This is what they're going to grow. And let me be clear. If that's because you found a strain that's very medicinal for you, for instance, and you want to keep that around, well, that's kind of what this whole game is about. That I understand. But sometimes I'll see that people like a strain for one aspect or another. Maybe it came from an exotic place far away. Maybe it's rare. But it doesn't really jive with their environment. And they're running into all these problems because this cultivar they're growing is very specific, and it's just not conducive with whatever environment they're growing in. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've definitely seen it.
So I was just talking to Steve, our good friend Steve, Potent Ponics. He's over in Thailand. And he's grown in Thailand, and he's hunting these strains, and he's showing us the camera. And All these plants are over in the corner, and he said, these ones are all going. They're all going to go. Why is that? Why are you calling them, Steve? Well, they don't do well out here. He said, this blueberry cross is beautiful, but it shuts down halfway through the hot Thai day, and it just gets all droopy, and then it starts to wake up again, but then it's nighttime, so it goes back to sleep. It just doesn't work with the environment. It's probably a fucking fire strain. It looked like a beautiful plant. It doesn't work with the environment. Do you think that it's hard for people to accept that maybe this strain just isn't the best for my climate, just isn't the best for my feed cycle, and let some of these finickier strains go?
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're, like you said, if you're really stuck on one. I mean, some people have strains that they've been running for years, and maybe all of a sudden it's just not, like you said, it's not running the same way that it should be, or
Oh, that's true.
maybe it's just the environment, like you were saying it could be. But yeah, absolutely, dude. I've seen this quite a bit. Lots of people like to keep shit around, and then, like you said, or they get it from somebody because they're in love with it, and it just doesn't jive well with their grow, like you were saying.
Yep.
They just something about their feed schedule, or maybe it's just the way that they run it. It doesn't come out the same for them, but they just can't get rid of it. I've seen that plenty of times.
And I think the disconnect is just how differently these cultivars can grow from one another. So I just experienced this with the Molokai Citrus Kush, which I ran twice.
Oh, I do remember that.
Yeah.
That's a good example.
And I love this strain, but god damn, I have never seen such a heavy feeder. I just haven't seen such a heavy feeder, man, ever in my life. It just eats and eats and eats and eats. It's probably used to growing in the fucking ground, right? With the high mineral content.
True.
Right? The Hawaiian soil. That's probably what it's used to. So when I brought it to my tent in Oklahoma, it was happy enough, but goddamn, it was yellowing and yellowing throughout flower because it was just so hungry. I finally let it go this run. I love the strain. It reeks. It's probably the most volatile, loud strain out of my tent, but it's just not working well with my system.
That's actually a really good example of this is especially stuff from seed. People, we all love to collect seed packs, and maybe you're hung up on a certain thing and you pop it, and like you're saying, it just doesn't do well in your garden, and you're just super inclined to keep it because it's these seeds or something. Sometimes you just need to move on and go to the next thing, or pop more seeds of it, or just try something else just because it's something you had your mind set on. You don't have to necessarily stick with it.
Totally. And you could be hunting new things. Maybe there's something greater out there for you.
Do you really want to be babying a plant forever?
Right. And again, if it's the medicinal side, then that's a different story. Like if that's what works for you, you might need to change up your garden to make it fit. But for me, I just liked this strain because it was exotic. I liked the way it smelled. I liked that it was from Hawaii, but I just can't keep running it. I can't do it. It's too finicky. It's not conducive. Now, Rich, one thing I will say is when you're dealing with a grow that uses containers, specifically smaller containers like my grow is currently, wouldn't top dressing this one plant be a good way to increase the nutritional delivery for just that plant and then not the rest of the tent?
Sure. I mean, why not? You could throw some top dress on there, especially something that's like a quicker release, maybe like a sustain or that chicken poo that I've talked about before.
Something that'll break
like
down
a
fast.
Composted litter. Yeah, it seems to break down really fast. And in fact, you can put it in water and bubble it or just leave it overnight and make like a compost tea out of it. So it's very quick release for a organic top dress. It's not like putting like some kind of rock dust on or something.
Right. So it's an important note if you do have one of those heavy feeders, but you don't want to adjust if you're feeding with liquids like I am, you don't want to adjust your mix. Throw in a little extra nutrition into the medium and then make sure that you have some sort of microbiology going on to help with that top dress. Maybe you can keep up that way.
Good call.
So yeah, just a little bit of advice. But the important note being, don't be afraid to let these strains go. There's a lot out there in the world.
So much good stuff.
So much good stuff. So don't pigeonhole yourself. Even if it is special to you, you got to be able to let go of what you love.
Yeah, it's easy to get stuck on shit these days, but even I do it all the time, and I have to tell myself like, there's just so much other shit out there, and there's so many packs of seeds, so many new strains coming out daily, or shit every year. I don't even want to think about how many new strains come out, but it just seems like shit's getting better and better too. So don't be scared to try something new.
Yeah, 100%, man. So I feel that people can sometimes get pigeonholed. Just make sure you're being objective with your selections and don't be afraid to move on. Move on to some brighter pastures. This was an awesome overview here, man. Let's just recap quickly. 5 big mistakes to avoid in your grow that I've been making recently. No. First, adding nutrients at the first sign of trouble. Instead, make sure to check all the other factors. Check your environment, check everything else that's going on, and make sure before you fuck with the medium that you're making the right move. Make sure not to stack your stressors. You don't need to top and move your plants and flip and transplant all the same day. Space those out and you'll have less downtime, lag time. Make sure you're diagnosing your deficiencies correctly and don't mistake fungal pathogens for deficiencies. Again, remember to make sure to look for the leaf veins. And if that mottling and necrosis is happening on the veins, that's how you know that there's something fungal going on in your medium. And then, of course, don't move or fuck with your plants. They don't like to be touched as much as possible, unless that is a core part of your gardening happiness. I would say leave those plants alone. And finally, don't get too hung up on any given cultivar. Make sure to keep your mind open and make sure not to shoot yourself in the foot by growing this finicky cultivar instead of swapping it out for something that just thrives in your garden, easy to grow, and is born to be there in your exact setup. So there you go. 5 big tips. Good shit, Rich. I appreciate you doing this deep dive with me.
Oh, it was a fun one, man. I always have a good time coming on and chatting, especially about grow shit.
Oh, yeah, man. We could just wrap growing forever. But before we wrap up the whole show, though, man, tell us more about what's going on in your garden. So we can expect the Oreos drop. We can go over the crosses if you'd like. And then I want to know about these 50 new plants. It seems like you do pheno hunts about 50 to 100 at a time. So people get excited, man.
Yeah, there'll be a couple new ones like Banana Punch. That cut is also from Farmer John. I can't remember where he got it from.
People love that Banana Punch.
Yeah, it's by Symbiotic Genetics. It actually has like real banana terps, and the frost on it is next level for sure, which was the first thing I saw when he showed it to me, or his buddy showed it to me, who also had a cut of it when we were in Colorado. I was just blown away by the frost and the banana smell on it, but it's just an all around great plant. So I used that as a mother and hit that with some of the Oreoz feminized pollen. Well, the Oreos hit it, not me. So there's that one, the truffle cake number 2, which I absolutely love. And I think me and Farmer John have talked about it. I think the truffle cake and the Oreos are going to cross extremely well. They're just both super frosty with lots of bag appeal. But, they both got very strong terps, whether it's raunchy or gassy or truffly or, it's not like a sweeter kind of strain. So it's kind of more up my alley. I like the gassier, raunchier stuff. So I have really high hopes for that one. The Oreos S1s, those I'm super excited about just because I love Oreos and I would love to see what else is lurking in those lines. So I think other people will enjoy those too. And same with the truffle cake S1s. I also made those in a separate room. I let a truffle cake, flipped a truffle cake, reversed it, and made some truffle cake S1s. So I really want to look through more truffle cake seeds.
Yeah, man.
And see what's going on with those.
People
and then,
there's
slurricane and oh yeah, people love that truffle cake, and I have no doubt that the S1s will also find some very interesting and unique plants in those. I have no doubt about that. So I'm excited about everything that we have going on with this new pollination. So
and then your same slurricane, you said, also getting hit with the Oreos.
Yeah.
That one's going to be big.
Yeah, I had to throw the slurricane in there.
Had to.
Yeah, there's a couple other truffle strains too, like white truffle cheese, white truffle, the Belief cut, the original one, which is the mother to truffle cake. So there's a couple other truffly plants in there with different profiles in the truffle cake. So I think they're all gonna end up crossing well and making some very interesting and unique terps. And I'm not a cheese fan, but the white truffle cheese is super, super good and complex flavor. The cheese just brought something else with the truffle, with the white truffle. And it's very pleasurable to smoke. So I really, really enjoyed that cut, got a hold of it, and hit that with the Oreos. So I'm excited to see what comes out of that, just because we've never done anything with cheesy strains. So
Yeah, that white truffle cheese really blew you away. How would you describe that? Are you getting some cheese off of it? I know you said it was kind of
oh yeah,
complex and multidimensional,
it's
but yeah,
very
it's cheesy.
yeah, it's complex, but you definitely get some cheese, but it's mixed with like gassy truffly flavors, so it's not all cheese.
Wow.
Like I said, I'm really not a cheese fan unless it's in crosses, and it seemed to cross really well with this one. And in fact, if you want to look at really well done pictures of the white truffle cheese, the one that I used, Farmer John, I believe, just posted some pictures on his
Oh,
Instagram.
nice.
I gave him a cut of it.
It's
And I mean,
nice.
she is incredibly frosty, just all around beautiful plant. So if anybody wants to take a look at pictures, scroll back on his page a little bit and you'll see the white truffle cheese.
Nice. The two-way highway between Farmer John and Rhizo Rich. That's the highway of fire. That's what we call that. At Farmer John
Back and forth.
13 is his. Yeah, dude, holy shit. This is going to be an awesome drop. I'm like really, really excited. Our first
I'm
ever Fem drop.
excited.
Good work, man.
I mean, I hate to say it could possibly be my best work. I think it possibly could be just because of, the fems and certain traits being pulled out a little bit easier. But the goal with every pollination is really to be better than the last one anyway. So I could say that with every one of them. So
Dude, I don't know. They're all so good. It's
no,
honestly
they
hard
all
for me
are
to choose. You've done
fantastic.
so
But
much good work, Rich.
in
Like,
my head, that's the
you
goal.
should be so proud, bro. I
Well, thank
respect and
you.
appreciate that.
I am
but
proud.
I think you've put out a bunch of A pluses. Like honestly, I was looking at some
Well,
peach
thank you. And people
typhoon.
seem happy.
I was looking at some peach typhoon the other day.
Oh yeah.
It was fucking insane. This thing is like pink and like it's like hot pink and covered in frost. Looking back at your lunar lemon, like holy shit, dude, it's crazy. And I'm stuck on the peach quake still. All the peach quake crosses.
Peach quake. Oh yeah.
That tectonic truffle that I grew was done in fucking 7.5 weeks. I've never seen anything
I just popped 4
like
of
it.
those. So hopefully I find a quick one too.
That comes from the truffle because I see people talking about that truffle cake finishing fast. But what happened with mine was I got the peach tones from the peach quake. So mine smelled like peach schnapps or like peach nail polish remover. Yeah, it was like peach acetone with like a little bit of low end mushroom type from the truffle cake. But what it got from the truffle cake was the frost coverage, and that bitch was done in -8 weeks, less than 8 weeks. I could not believe it, dude.
Yeah, a lot of people got fast finishers. I was surprised. And like you said, truffle cake finishes fast, but some people were getting, almost a week faster than her. So it's just wild.
It's fucking dope, man. I'm really excited. Really, really excited. So thank you, man. Thank you for all you do. You're killing it with Seed Co. And now you're going to be sharing some of your information with the home breeders. We're going to be teaching people how to start their own breeding journey, start creating their own strains. And I'm excited to teach it with you, man, because you've got some really cool opinions and philosophies and methodologies. Are you so excited for this class on March 4th at Next Level in Rockford?
Oh, dude, I'm definitely excited. I tell people all the time, new growers and long-term growers, that, at least one time in your quote unquote growing career or whatever you want to call it, you should do a pollination and make your own strain just to, I don't know, experience it. It's very rewarding
Totally.
to even just, pollinate and put 2 plants together and grow the seeds out and see those plants and be able to smoke them and know that I put those 2 phenos of that strain together and made this. And nobody else has it. It's just very unique and a very rewarding feeling and experience I think everybody should do. And it's not hard to do at all. So I think it'll be fun getting that info out to people.
That's going to be awesome. So we have a whole intensive workshop that I think a lot of people are intimidated to get started. And by the end of this workshop, you're going to be ready to start your breeding journey. Not only will we teach you everything that you need to know, but we're also going to do some hands-on stuff, like show you exactly what pollen application and pollen preservation and all these things look like. And then most importantly, we'll have a bunch of resources available for you to get started.
Absolutely.
So yeah, thank you, Rich, man. You are killing it. And I'm going to pop these Oreos ASAP, man.
Oh, I hear you. I actually just popped a few myself. So with my my current 50 seedlings, so I got some of those in there, and the tectonics, and frost cakes, and rhino butter. Got some key lime madness.
Ooh, the key lime madness, dude. That shit's my favorite.
Yeah, I definitely had to pop a couple of those that I had laying around. I wanted to look through more of those. And I got some shit by other breeders. I got like this Fresh Coast, the garlic ice mints and the purple Urkel cake.
Ooh.
Some Relentless, there's black cherry gas.
Ooh.
Some exotic genetic stuff. His apes in space. A couple of these packs were from that member in Virginia, Chuck.
Oh, shout out Chimichucka.
Yep.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That was so nice for him to donate.
Yeah,
so,
he's a badass.
So that's the new pop. You got about 50 strains that you'll be hunting through for the next pollination, whatever it may be.
50, a little over 50 seedlings, not strains, but yeah, a little over 50 seedlings. Okay. And yeah, there's some key lime pie fems from Caper in there. There's a couple other strains that I can't remember off the top of my head, but
oh hell yeah.
Oh, the members, they wanted me to pop some of the when I did that poll a while back, the key lime pie cross to gelato by Slaughter Genetics, so I popped some of those. That pure Michigan cross with the dino meat.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Can't think of everything off the top of my head, but yeah, just a lot of really, really good shit. It'll be very, very interesting to see what we end up getting in there, because I like the larger seed hunts. You know, you can get multiple things going on, see multiple phenos. Like I said, I'm probably most excited about looking through the Oreos or the truffle cake Oreos, and then the S1s, and of course the frost cakes and tectonic rhino butter. Our shit probably is what excites me the most, but I'm always excited to see what else I get in other people's stuff too, and all the stuff that I'm popping from other people seems to be fire, so I have no doubt that it'll be dank too.
Hell yeah, man. I cannot wait. We will be staying tuned, and again, listeners, I will update, obviously, on this show when the Oreos drop goes live. You're hearing this Monday. There's a possibility it could be up, but stay tuned. And you can find all of Rich's work at growcastpodcast.com/Seed Co. SEEDCO. growcastpodcast.com/Seed Co. Well, man, that's all for today. Any final words before we wrap it up? Appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Appreciate everybody that supports us and Seed Co. Y'all kick ass. It's been very motivating for me, at least, to keep doing what I'm doing. So I appreciate each and every one of you. All the listeners, everybody.
We love the members, the listeners, and all the growers out there. Stay tuned, everybody. Again, come and see us, Rockford, Illinois. That is March 4th at Next Level Indoor Garden Supply. Big fans of Next Level. Shout out. Thank you so much for hosting us. They're wonderful people. And I'll see you members and listeners there with Rhizo Rich. All right. That's all for today. Hope you picked up a couple of things to learn, to avoid. And we'll see you on the next episode of GrowCast, everybody. This is Rhizo Rich and Jordan River signing off, saying to you, be safe out there and grow smarter.
Later on.
That's our show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you to Rhizo Rich. Of course, you can find Rhizo Rich on Instagram or in our Discord, and check out GrowCast Seed Co. at growcastpodcast.com/Seed Co. And think about coming to visit us March 4th in Illinois for our home breeding workshop. Rhizo Rich is going to teach you everything you need to know to get started breeding. It's going to be a blast. Find that at growcastpodcast.com/classes. Thank you to Next Level Garden Supply for hosting us. We'll see you March 4th, everybody. Before we wrap it up, shout out to our partners, AC Infinity, the best grow gear in the game. Code GrowCast15 saves you 15% at acinfinity.com. They've got the thick, sturdy tents with the thick canvas and the thick tent poles, the best tents in the game. They've got the fans that you need, the inline fans, the Cloud Ray oscillating fans now. Again, code GrowCast15 for 15% off. The best quality grow gear you can find. They've also got lights and scissors and pots and hangers and so much more. But when it comes to the fans and the tents, there's no one else out there that does it better. The inline fans, the Cloud Line series, are fantastic. The S series is the simple series, still comes with a 10-speed fan controller. And the T series comes with a controller that lets you automatically dial in your temperature and humidity. acinfinity.com, code GrowCast15 for 15% off. They even have grow kits that come with everything you need to expand. Get that second veg tent, get that second flower tent you've been thinking about. Save with the kit and use code GrowCast15, which now works on those kits, saving you extra money with the best gear in the game. acinfinity.com. They've been our partners for years. We brought these guys along a long time ago. They've really, really expanded and done a great job. acinfinity.com, code GrowCast15. That's all, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you have a lovely time out there. Hope your garden is beautiful and lush. We'll see you on the next GrowCast. Bye-bye.
Sacrifice, bud.